All right. Hey, I think we're actually live here. Let me just make sure. Yes, we are. Okay. Hey, Stay Wild Child. This is Nicole, and welcome to episode 17. I took a couple weeks off. I was doing a little bit of traveling, and now we're back, and I'm super excited on who is joining us today. So Cathy Oglebay is joining us from Las Vegas, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Nevada. Okay. Yeah. Join us from Las Vegas. And I'm just excited for her to share. I think this is like absolutely the perfect timing for her to come on and talk about her gifts of conscious parenting, of homeschooling. We have so much to talk about today. So I'll let you guys know that Cathy and I, we met each other in at a Quantum Revolution tour that Jessica Alstrom put on. And she started dancing at one of our events that we have, one of our parties. And I'm like, that's my kind of girl.
Yep, it sounds like me, that's for sure.
I'm always a dancer too. So I love it when somebody else just, like you start the dancing, right?
Oh yeah, typically.
Yeah, always. Me too. I'm always the first one dancing. I'm like, there's music. We have to dance. Right? So, okay. So Cathy, I know that you've watched several of our Stay Wild Child broadcasts. However, I just wanted to kind of, how I always start for people, because, you know, this is helping women remember who they are before the world told them who they were supposed to be. And we can get caught up in, society and belief systems that are passed down and stories that we've been told growing up. And then those stories just continue and we tell them to ourselves over and over and over again about, good wife, good parenting, good woman, good, what does it take to be all these things? And I'm telling you, the messages can be so freaking confusing. And then we get caught up in our head like we're not living up, right? And it's just, it can be this spaghetti spiral of our brain twisting all over the place, just trying to keep up with all the images and all the information that we're being constantly fed all the time about what it takes to live up to this woman, right? And so I know that you are a life coach, and I've actually referred to a couple of people. And so I know you're a life coach. I know that you're a single mama, and I know that you are on this platform of conscious parenting. And I don't even know if that's right to call it a platform, but that's your beliefs, or, right? That's what you're championing. But I want you to go back before we get into all of that, talk a little bit about your journey and kind of what brought you to this space and this place and this moment that now you know that you need to kind of share your light with others.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. It's wonderful to be part of your wonderful group. It's nice when women champion other women. So I think that's a wonderful thing. So, but yeah, it's interesting because when I first had children, I was not a conscious parent at all. I wasn't born to be a mom. Like some women, when they're 8, they know they want to be moms. That was not me. I was a teacher way before I had children, and so I did have that nurturing quality about me. But when I was dealing with a lot of my own program stuff, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure, but about like being good enough. That was one of my things. And so I find myself pregnant at 31 on my own, and the kids, my oldest son's dad was someone I dated back in my early 20s. And so he's like, let's have a baby, right? And so, I get pregnant, I have this baby with him, and he's kind of not really part of it. And so here I am parenting by myself. And honestly, in some ways that's turned out to be quite the blessing, because my kids, I've realized, are my greatest teachers, and I don't regret any bit of that. So I have my oldest son. And again, I was not a conscious parent from the start. It took me a few years before I really got well enough to be there. And then I was very lonely. And then I ended up meeting the father of my second 2 children. And he was my twin flame, which basically his role in my life was to show me and mirror for me all of my stuff, all of my things that I needed to work on. And I wasn't aware of this. I wasn't raised in a spiritual type household. So all these things, these names for these things was kind of foreign to me. But at the same time, after I had these 2 little ones, he was kind of in and out and was getting himself in trouble and kind of disappeared here and there for time. And so I was really only parenting. I don't even call it single parenting because I never really had any help.
Right.
And one of my biggest programs was the No One Ever Helps Me. I have to do everything by myself. And so I was struggling with babysitters not showing up, with giving 150% of myself and never being enough for anyone, and feeling that guilt and that weight and all of that stuff on me, that it was kind of like, I can't do this anymore. It was like I was trying to tread water with my straw out of the water just to get a little bit of oxygen, and I wasn't taking care of myself at all. And so I think a lot of women, a lot of moms I see do that. They give the entirety of themselves into their children, which is something with conscious parenting you can't do anymore. So fast forward, I went to New Hampshire. My parents are going to help me a little bit, but that comes with a big heavy side of guilt. So we'll help you, but and I had a hard time finding a job teaching in New Hampshire, and so I actually was kind of forced to stop and sit and be with my kids and actually just be present, which is kind of like what we're facing now, right? We're
Right.
slowing down, we're being stuck in our homes, which is a good thing. If you stop and look at it as a positive, it's a very good thing. And so it took me a while to realize that. They were all toddlers, and toddlers were difficult for me, um, because it's hard to take care of yourself when they need you. So
Right.
so I'm sure many of the mommies know that. But
Hmm.
then I had a few people that I call angels in my life that started to show me like what it could look like, and my one in particular, she was a mirror for me and was showing me all the good things about me and where I was going, and she did some readings for me about where I'm headed, and so it really kind of allowed me to open up into that spiritual side of life. And I started doing gratitude work and all of that, and I really started pulling out and saying, you know what, it is good that I'm not working right now. Who cares? Like, I'm not, we're not starving and whatever. And at that time, I was thinking about this earlier, and I had to sign up for food stamps. And for me to receive in that way, I thought I would be made to feel guilty and made to feel bad. But I remember the experience going in to sign up for it. And the woman who interviewed me made me feel like this was a good thing for me to be doing for my children, not guilty. And
Yeah.
I thought back to that, and I actually started crying in the car this morning thinking about it. And I was like, that was the first time I had received without that guilt, that side of guilt. And so I was like, this is okay, this is going to be good. And so I started flipping how I looked at things and my perspective on things, and then being more present with my kids and realizing that I was doing a damn good job. And so I started talking kinder to myself. And then of course I met Jessica, that you mentioned earlier, and started doing some life coaching with her. And very, very quickly I started kicking those programs out, saying, screw you programs, you're not serving me anymore. I'm good, I'm safe, and I'm whole, and I'm well. And so fast forward about a year, I lost like 50 pounds. I just released it. I had put on all that weight for psychic protection, like from the guilt feelings and all that other stuff. And I
Right.
started to lower my shoulders, and I started to come out and just be, I don't know, like myself again. I felt like me for the first time in a very long time. And it was so wonderful to feel that. And then people were starting to validate me. And so I was like, oh, I should be doing this for other people. And that's where I am now. So
That's so, what a good story. It's interesting. It seems like everybody that I bring on Stay Wild Child, I can kind of like relate to them, in some area, right? Like we kind of, well, I mean, it's attraction, right? So, yeah, so, you have that, kind of attraction piece. And that's a lot of what I went through as well, was releasing those unworthy programs. I was a single mom as well. And for about 6 years, I did solo parenting. My son's dad was not involved either. And
mhm.
so like only parenting, as you called it. So yeah, so it does. You don't even realize, I don't think, that those, I think my unworthy feelings started way before that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
However, right. However, they really start to come around when, your child's parent is not in the picture whatsoever. And for me, it ended up being a great thing too, even though it was hard not getting child support and things like that, and kind of doing it on your own. But man, I'm really I'm really glad that it kind of ended up going that way, because yeah, we raised these really incredible children. And I don't know that I definitely wasn't conscious for a while. I remember after one of Jessica's events, I came home and I go, "Did I screw you up?" And Lane's like 20. He's like, "No, Mom, I'm good." And I'm like, "Are you
I've
sure?"
met your son. You did not screw up. He's very sweet.
Oh,
So
thanks. Yeah, he's a good boy. But I
yeah.
mean, we unconsciously, sometimes push off those programs on our kids. So
Well,
so
that's,
talk
yeah.
about what conscious parenting is, because I hadn't heard that term probably until the last couple of years. So
Yeah, and for me, I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing until Jessica kept saying, "Well, you're such a good conscious parent." I'm like, "Huh, I do that." Well, and for me, I think it's just about being present. Most of what to me spiritual work isn't necessarily about guides and talking to spirit and all that stuff. It's just looking inward and trying to better yourself. To me, that's what I call spiritual work. And
right,
so, however that shows up for you, whether it be a religion or spirit and all that stuff, I don't think that matters so much as just being present. And
present,
so
right,
for me, it's not just, and it's realizing that just like myself, my kids have things that trigger them. My kids are my triggers. My kids very much serve purposes for me in different ways. And that's why their personalities are so different. And so to me, it's when my daughter's throwing a tantrum, it has nothing to do with whatever it is she's mad about, because it usually seems totally nonsensical anyways. It's like, I don't want to do my math that I just asked to do, and that's not what it's about. It's that she wants to cuddle. And so honestly, she serves for me my inner child who didn't have what she needed in some ways when she was little. So when she throws those fits, I sit and I hold her the way that I wish I had been held when I was a child. And I just love her, and I rub her back, I rub her feet. I tell her that she's worthy and that she's beautiful and that she's capable and that she's, all the nice, kind, uplifting things that I think that I didn't have so much. It's like I know they felt those things, but I didn't when I was that age. And so I remind her all those things. And let me tell you, she's the most confident little human that I've ever met in my life. Because with her, she's my youngest, I was the most conscious since she was tiny.
sure,
Whereas the boys have some things that I'm going to need to work on with them because I wasn't. And I see those patterns emerging for themselves just like I had throughout my life. But and so my oldest son is my trigger. He's my mirror. He's my going to push your buttons until you do learn what you need to learn. And I'm very grateful for that as well. And so again, when he's triggering me, I try to stop and I breathe and I say, what am I supposed to be learning right now? This isn't about him wanting to play video games. We were just talking before we went live about he just wants to play video games instead of do his schoolwork. And rather than getting mad at him for that, it's just reminding me, I realized the other day, is reminding me that I'm not necessarily doing my work that I should be doing. And it's like, hurry up and do it already. I've been kind of procrastinating on my education stuff. And that's what he's telling me, because as soon as I realized that wall came down and he started doing what he was supposed to be working on. And that's just his role in my life. And then my middle child is my heart. He's completely open heart, which I am not. I've been working on that a lot lately. I've been having a lot of anxiety stuff around my heart with between being an empath and all the stuff that's going on in the world and stuff. And so I think just being really right here in the moment when you're interacting with them really allows you to show up differently as a parent. And also not doing, I feel that in my generation of parenting, so many parents want to do everything for their kids because we were kind of neglected in that way when we were little. And so it's like an all or nothing. And I don't think it's an all or nothing. I think it's somewhere in the middle. You got the pendulum. We were over here, we're parenting over here, and it's not. It's somewhere in the middle. Like when I'm doing education projects with them, they're responsible for, we might talk about ideas, but they're responsible for accomplishing it. I'm not going to go and set up this 2-hour-long assignment thing that they're going to work on for 2 minutes and be done, which I see parents doing often. And it's not, you're taking the learning away from them by doing that. And same thing. And so for me, that's not conscious. That's putting ourselves onto them, which is very different. So I think the more present and in the body we are, the easier it is to respond in appropriate ways to our children. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, I think, but
it's maybe, is it possibly, when the parents are maybe going overboard and doing too much. It's because we're stuck in the busyness of the world. And
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of guilt there too, like you were
right,
saying before. I know, and that's a lot of what I was doing when my kids were little. I was go 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 go, and I'm still guilty of that. I'm working on it, but when I'm with them, I am fully here. I'm not on my phone doing 17 other things. I'm not trying to answer messages. I am right there with them. And honestly, an hour doing that is better than 4 hours of being distracted and doing,
sure.
and so I'll get down and do Legos with them for an hour or whatever, and I'll have them help me cook, those kind of things. And to me, that's learning that's invaluable anyways, which is part of what I'm working on with my educational stuff to keep them, um, and it's good life skills. Like, I think there was a whole generation of young people who hit 20, 22, 23 and were like, don't know how to do laundry, don't know how to cook, can't pay bills. And so they're living with their parents still. And that's fine if you want to keep your family together. But if it's because they literally can't do it, we're not doing them any service in that way. So.
Right, right. So it's really just it's being present. It's being in the now. That's what
Mhm.
conscious parenting is.
Yeah. Which is very hard for people, especially if they haven't done the work on themselves to want to be here, because there's a lot of emotional baggage that comes with being present sometimes, that we have to feel our feels. Like a mom that I know, I was talking to just the other day, she's a pretty conscious person and very woke, as we say, but she she was like, well, what do I tell my kids now that we don't know what's coming? I'm like, did you know what was coming before this crazy
Right.
stuff? I said, we never know. I said, that's why living in the present is so important. She's like, oh my God, of course. I teach that all the time. And, it's easy to slip out of being there when you're afraid, or when you're angry, or when you're frustrated, or when you're hurting because something reminds you of when you were 2 or whatever it is. And that's why life coaching is so important, I think, because it helps remind you and keep you looking at, where you're doing that to yourself. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about this support group that you put together. It's called the Coronavirus
Yeah, I know
Parent
it's a weird
Support
name.
Group.
It's changed twice
I was
already.
like,
I made it kind of kitschy because I figured, people
yeah,
would find me. There are a
sure.
lot of
I would
homeschoolers,
agree with you.
yeah, and there are a lot of homeschoolers that have been homeschooling for a long time, and I didn't necessarily think they needed the assistance so much because they've already been doing their thing. So it's Coronavirus New Homeschooler Support Group, which is,
Okay.
again, crazy name, but it'll probably change once this kind of passes. I think we've got another 6-8 weeks before we're moving on from this, but
Right.
and basically it's my goal is to kind of get people to chill out. So it's going to be a little bit of coaching and parenting, like breathe in and out, people. It's okay. Your kids aren't going to die if, they don't do 8 hours a day of curriculum. And then it's going to be more kind of, even my own children, I noticed, because their teachers sent home this amazing amount of stuff, which I thought was for the whole week, for the whole time we were out. And it was for the 1 week. I'm like, holy crap. So I was like, okay, I have to find balance with this, because what I'm teaching and what I'm doing with my children have to be, they really deserve to be the same, because that's exactly how I think kids should be learning. And I think next year, part of this came up because I'm not going to I got a scholarship for their school for these past 2 years, but I won't be getting it next year. And
Mm.
so I'm like, do I want to pay for it or not? I honestly, with what I'm paying, I don't like it enough, if that makes sense. Like, I'm
Sure.
not happy
Yeah.
enough with the way they run things. I think there's too
Right.
much curriculum. So here I am, and I'm presenting things, and I'm trying to get people to do more holistic learning, I call it, more really presence parenting. I'm calling it presence parenting just because I feel like it's a reminder to be here, right? And allow your kids, because especially little ones, if we start this when they're young, they get really good at, they're already good at, they don't learn that, but they're learning through exploration, through experimentation, through digging in the dirt. And then what I always tell parents is, let them figure out what they want to do, and then make learning out of that. So if, like, my kids have been doing a lot of artwork out in the backyard on the walls, and then we can talk about, well, let's measure for math, and let's, talk about mixing colors for art and things like
Right.
that. So I'm taking what they're already choosing to do and talking about it, and the learning is in the talking, or they're telling me what they did. So
Sure.
it's not me telling them what they need to do, how many minutes they need to do it and things like that. It's much more holistic is why I call it that. And we
Sure.
go,
So like they're discovering, right? Like they're discovering the lesson.
yes, exactly. So it's really hard to like write curriculum. I have some
Sure.
ideas of curriculum things, but what I like parents to do is say, okay, so this is what we did today. How do I make sure that they get the lessons they need to go? And that's where the educational coaching part's going to come in, where I can kind of provide. I'm actually going to start like a subscription group later on, probably a month or two in,
Sure.
where I can kind of have those question answers with people. Okay, my kid did this today. How do I make this? How do I get history into this? How do I get foreign language, whatever. And so it can be more well-rounded without having to do a bunch of block curriculum stuff.
So it's a homeschool support group system that you will be helping parents go the homeschool route, but then in addition, creating some curriculum as well.
Yeah, there'll be some ideas. I think, like I'm making a few videos a week. I think for now I'm doing 2 lives a week where I'm just kind of, this is some ideas and this is how you can tailor it to different ages. So you're not trying to do 3 different projects for 3 different kids, in case their kids, I feel like by late elementary, early middle school, a lot of kids have lost that creative like drive because they're going to school. School
Sure.
kind of murders that.
Yeah, right. Right. Like follow along, sit
you're in
still, do this. Yes.
and that's coming from a 20-year educator. So yeah. But, and so in that way you can tailor it to like my 11-year-old, my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old can all be doing the same thing, but learning at their place, which is cool too. So that'll be kind of some ideas, as well as, okay, here's what I was doing with my kids. How do I wrap it up and make it make sense together holistically? So
Yeah.
it's hard to
I like it.
define. It's hard to define because it's so free flowing,
Sure.
which is the beauty of it.
It is the beauty of it, right? That's everything about it. I love it.
And you don't need a ton of things. You don't need to have a ton of resources. Like they built little leprechaun traps a week or so ago for St. Patrick's Day. God only knows if that was last week or what. I've lost track.
I know, right? I've lost time.
10 years have gone by in the last week,
Uh-huh.
and I bought $9.99 of supplies at the dollar store. And I swear they built those things for 6-7 hours. And, and I told them, I said, you have a $10 budget, tell me, make a list, and whatever. And I didn't give them the idea of doing that. They're like, let me make leprechaun traps. I'd never heard of a leprechaun trap, but whatever. And so they did it. And it was awesome because they colored, they cut, my son has a pulley system in his to have a trap door going on. It's like, okay.
Wait, engineer.
Yeah. So yeah. So, I mean, things like that I didn't set it up. It didn't take any of my time except for a quick run to the dollar store, and that was it. So,
wow. So are you planning on doing some traveling during this? Because I know that you like to definitely be outdoors, but is there going to be travel involved, do you think?
Well, that's funny because I had started this group right before and was calling it, what did I call it? The Golden Odyssey, because we have a Golden Odyssey van, which is funny. And Odyssey means great adventure, right?
Okay.
And then it was a road schooling adventure. So we were going to do a big July trip up the West Coast and back down through the Sierras. That's remains to be seen depending on what travel we're able to do. But being here in Vegas is great because we have so many little day trips that we can do. Death Valley is like an hour and a half away. Zion's 2 hours away. Grand Canyon's like 3 hours away. So, and we have all this beautiful natural beauty. So we're going to do little like day trips here and there to kind of, like 2 weekends ago, we went to Valley of Fire, which is about 50 miles from Vegas. And they made this weird like waterfall thing all day, literally for about 2 hours. They had rained a few days before, and they were just doing all this stuff. And I was just hanging out in the sun with the dog and chilling out. It was perfect.
Great.
So.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So, okay. So I know you touched on it briefly, but let's go back to the people, maybe moms who are watching right now this is brand new to them. This is, maybe they have full-time corporate jobs and now they're home with their children and trying to teach learning. And then also, I mean, you know, I know on Monday for me last week, I kind of got in that, a little bit of that fear mindset around the economy, just because mine and my husband's business are both economy driven, but it's not going to do any good, you know, to go to that space. But, you know, still I'm human, right? So, so let's go back to these, let's think about right now, these moms who are, maybe corporate moms, possibly, you know, this is the first time they've been home with their kids, and they're now, you know, there's some homeschool stuff that's, you know, going to transpire. And then also there's some fear around, the virus and, you know, what the media is pushing out and all of that at this moment. So what is can I get your best, put on your life coach hat and share some wisdom? Because I mean, you are an educator, and you seem to be doing a damn good job with your kids. And I love that you're, you know, talking about being in the present. So just share a little bit of wisdom with us.
Yeah. First thing, unplugged a little bit. I know I've noticed the times that I've slipped into fear. It's been because I was looking at social media, and then I realized I turned it off and I stepped aside. I also had spent some time doing the, snooze for 30 days. I'm like, we're locked down for 30 days. Snooze, snooze, snooze for 30 days. All these people that are, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. Yes, things are going to change. And why not look at that in the positive? So I challenge everyone to snooze people that you need to. They'll still be there, I promise. And if they're not, you're better off without them anyways. That's hard to do, but I just stopped calling people because that's all they could talk about. I've been really, the people who I have had in my life have been people who are more like present and open. So reach out to somebody who you know is like that. It's okay if your kids take a week off school. It was what we call unschooling. The first step of unschooling is to just take a week off. Don't make them stick to that ridiculous, oh my God, one of my teacher friends, she sent me the schedule for her kids, and it was literally every 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, that stresses me out. And that's from someone who's busy, and it stressed me out. I said, honey, you gotta let them go out and play. If you have a yard, let them out, let them go play in the dirt. You know, don't just sit them in front of the TV, obviously, but let them go, let them just do art, let them make a mess. My house is a hot mess right now, and it's okay, because it can be picked up, you know. So let that happen. I would say give them a whole week to just kind of breathe in and out and have those conversations with them. Are they afraid? Do they even hear about it? My kids don't have any fear because I haven't brought the fear in the home. They don't look at social media stuff, and obviously kids aren't talking about that stuff anyways, but so they don't. I asked them last night, I'm like, are you guys feeling fear about this? And they said, no, not really. I'm like, okay, good. I said, if you do, you can talk to me, you know, and just be. And then I also challenge your parents, this is going to be your favorite one, is to play with the kids. That's a lot of us stink at that. I know I still have to remind myself sometimes. When I first started this more conscious focus, I literally scheduled in a time. That's how crazy I was. I'm like, play with the kids, turn off the phone, you know. We have a trampoline out back, and I go bounce with them. We do what's called a steamroller. We all lie down in a roll. We roll over each other, and it's ridiculous, but I laugh so hard that I pee my pants half the time.
Right.
You know, and replay it
every time on a trampoline. Yes.
And so it's fun and play. And you know what? Time stops when that happens. It just feels so good and so amazing. And they know they're safe, and they know that it doesn't matter what happens. They got mom. And it takes the seriousness of it all away for a little while even. So when you feel yourself stressed out, that's what I challenge people to do. And don't be so, like, if the kid, like I said with the teachers, I said, you know, if my kids don't finish this all, they're years ahead in school anyway, so who cares? I don't. And so that's been a big one for me, because school was the way I got recognized in my family, like getting straight A's all the time and doing really well.
Okay.
And so for me, letting go of that is huge, but it's time to let go of that stress. And, you know, the principal this morning was like, you know, you sure you can figure this out? I was like, I've taught English for 20 years, lady. I think I got it.
I can figure it out.
my kids all like were very early readers, and I'm like, yeah, I think we got this.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, exactly. You know, I think that probably the reason I talk about play so much is because, yeah, it was me scheduling it in for myself, because I can have this real guilt around around not getting enough done. So there was this quote yesterday. I put it on Facebook, but I've got it in my photos here. Let me pop it up real quick. It's how it was so good for me. And of course, I'm not seeing it right now. It was yoga. Of course, I was gonna. Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. It was in the yoga journal. We're undergoing a collective global reset and a collective global trauma in real time. A sacred pause is in order before you start trying to get a bunch of stuff done.
Nice.
I'm like,
yeah,
thank you for that reminder.
Yeah.
Because I have, because I didn't do a lot last week, and you know, I was settling into kind of getting back, but I'm always finding myself like pressuring myself to, oh, well, we can get every closet in the house cleaned out. We can get all the, because we're remodeling our kitchen. So we're living in like real prehistoric times right now, because we have like a grill and like a crock pot and like a Instapot. That's what I'm cooking out of right now. And then we're washing dishes in the bathroom. But I was like, okay, we can go through every single box. And figure out what we're going to keep and not keep. And then I'm in the process of doing this workshop online. I can get it all done. I think you and I even talked, like when I was in New York, I was messaging you and we're both like, it's the perfect time. We'll get all this stuff done. You know, and yes, we probably will. But I don't know if you're like me, but it's the pressure that to achieve, you know?
Oh, yes. Yes. Again, that's how I was recognized in my family. I had two older brothers who were superstar athletes, and there was a lot like the more masculine features were very, valued more so than any of the feminine ones. So like I was always a tomboy, and I was always good athlete too, and super strong, and yeah, that was how my recognition was. So it's like the straight A's, gotta go, gotta work, gotta do this, and it's just, that was one of my patterns. So to break that down was wonderful in a way. It still lingers, and it still reminds me, because people are like, how do you do it all? I'm like, do all what? At this point, I think it would be harder to co-parent than it is to just do it by myself. And until they're teenagers, then I know they'll be rotten and I can send them away, but I'm like, I need to hurry up, get married, and then get divorced. I can send them away for the weekends. That's all my favorite. Just kidding, not really. But yeah, so and I think that's something that I catch myself on often, and I think that's where my oldest reminds me to just chill out. And when he triggers me, I'm like, you don't do anything. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be not doing anything today. And so far, so good. This week, I was definitely busy. I'm transitioning from my job where I go to work to teaching online. A couple days, I was like, I hate being in front of the computer all day. Like, it's not my highest joy. And I said, so I'm not going to be. I'm really efficient when I am working. So I'm going to be really efficient for those 2 hours. And then I'm going to take a break. I'm going to make healthy meals. I've cooked every meal for almost 2 weeks now. And which is awesome. I've been eating so much better. We go out and bounce on the trampoline. Like I said, the desert, like BLM land is right at the end of my street. So I took like a 2-mile hike yesterday, and today while it's rainy today, I might not go out, but and just slowing down. I did 2 gong meditations because I love the sound therapy. And that's something that I don't usually give to myself with that time, maybe once in a while, but I'm doing it every day. I was journaling, which, it's like I am slowing down, even if it's not noticeable to other people. But for me, it is.
Sure. Yeah.
We've got to just be gentle, I think, with ourselves. And
yeah. That's what you said at the beginning. When we first started talking, you said about spirituality. It's being present in the moment. And that's what it is for everything. For conscious parenting, for spirituality, it's connecting with yourself right then and there. And I know that's something that I really, really practice at, because I can, yeah, go in a lot of different directions pretty fast, because I keep active, right? And so, and I love that part about myself, right? I love that connection that I have with other people and that activity. And I think that that's definitely a gift of mine, right? To accomplish things and get things done and encourage others that they can do the same. But then it's also stepping back, and it's that presence. And so it's this, it's definitely an interesting balance for sure.
Well, and I think that it's okay to do all that stuff if you're present while doing it, because it's easy to use all that stuff as a distraction from. But I think, especially when you have other, like when you're hanging out with friends and they're like-minded, you're probably going to have more meaningful conversation. You're probably going to not just go get drunk and be stupid, and
Right.
that's okay too sometimes. But
Of course. Yeah.
as long as we're not, because we can use anything as an addiction. We can use,
Yeah.
I use exercise as an addiction. I recently came to terms with that, and I'm like, trying to find that balance between moving my body and not making it just yet another way to escape stuff. And so I think if it's perfectly fine to be present and conscious when you're with your friends too. And it's, to me, that's not escaping, unless you're just, like I said, just not being present and whatever. So it's all about what serves the highest good. And if it makes you feel good, I think that's a good thing too. So
Yeah.
but not, as long as we don't avoid those grief moments too, because that's one that I tried to avoid for a long time. And then I realized that when you finally release it, it's gone, and then it doesn't haunt you anymore. And I think that that's a really important thing too. And I've realized that sitting with the grief in the I think about last 2 months, I've been doing a lot of grief stuff in my coaching. And it's been huge, because it's my joy is more true, more real. It's not like there aren't holes in it anymore. I feel like it was like a mask almost before sometimes, and now it's more pure, which is, I can feel the difference. So that's good.
I like it. Don't you love it? It's like that going in and finding out where those programs and those stories lie, and then we recognize them and we're aware of them, and then work on, or just recognize them, and then see where that piece needs to be healed. And then we do that, and then we have this opportunity to just really, just because we've gone in and we found that story or we found that program, then we have this opportunity to share it with somebody who maybe hasn't been able to witness it at this point. And then it just gives us the opportunity to share our light with them, and just kind of find out where these hidden things are. So that is what I love about this community, that I just find myself, it's interesting. I remember a couple of years ago when I really kind of started digging in, I was like, oh, there's not a lot of people that I can talk to. And now
There's
so many.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. like it's just exploded. And I was always, cause I thought that I kind of had this story that, I only have a community, if I go to an event. But I found this like little community here, and that I'm able to open up and talk to about things and have these really poignant conversations with. So it's just the story that we're telling ourselves, right? If we're telling ourselves like we don't have a community here that we can connect with, well, then we're not going to have a community here in our hometown that we can connect with.
I'm breaking that one down right now, and people are starting to show up, which is nice. Because I was telling that exact same story. I'm like, I have friends all over the world, and it's interestingly enough, how are we communicating with them now is like you and I are communicating right now with all of our friends. So I was like, oh, well, of course I have people, I just need to put that light out there. And it's also interesting that you mentioned, because like I said, I didn't grow up in the spiritual world. So when people start talking about all these things, I'm like, I just kind of like, oh, I'm very interested, but it's kind of foreign to me.
Sure.
And so I feel like I always tell Jessica, I was like, I think I'm going to be really good with the people who don't speak the language, but feel the feels, it's like, they know they're drawn to this, but they don't know why. But it's okay. You don't need to have that language. You don't need to have the verbiage to really understand what it means to be present, what it means to take a deep breath, And I think I've been doing a really good job of bridging the gap for people who are in there. But interesting too is these young people I work with, my students are from like 16 to 19, 20 age. And my school is particularly troubled kids. They've, had hard lives already, and they're young. And so they come to us to try to finally graduate. And I've worked doing life coaching stuff with a lot of these guys because they just can't function. And so I'm like, if they're not okay, they're not going to function and finish school. So
Right.
I sat down, and they are so quick to learn this stuff. Adults are hard because we use 6 months and it'll be like, we're stubborn. We're like, no, I'm not going to let this one. That's not me. I don't know what you're talking about. And these kids are like, oh, and you can see the light bulbs going on. And, a 15, 20, half an hour session with these guys, and they're like different humans, and I may need to remind them when I see them, like, remember we talked about last time, have you been thinking about these? Yeah, I saw this pattern, blah, blah, blah. They pick it up so fast. And ultimately I would like that if I stay with this job that I'm doing to be able to do more of that. So I'm trying to figure out how to segue that into my boss, but because the teaching part is, I'm over that, but because it's still curriculum, it's still, even though I got to write the curriculum, so it's a little better, but I just really enjoy that part of it because they are super needy of this work, and they get it very quickly. And even if it changes just a little bit, it's awesome. And I have kids come back to me and be like, Miss O, you changed my life. And it's like, yes, that's my goal.
Isn't that cool? Absolutely. Yeah. I was talking to my son about something, kind of spiritual based, the other, over this time that we've spent more time together. And I was talking to him about it, and I'm like, were you mentioning something about this a few years ago? He goes, yeah, Mom, you wouldn't even listen to me. It's like, they're just so much more aware and so much more open. Yeah. And they, if it resonates with you, there's a reason it's resonating with you.
Yes.
And I think as adults, that's why we have to hear the same message 10 times. And it's like, oh shit, I just got that. Oh, that made sense.
I literally, because of all this, like you said, the timing is perfect for my education stuff. I literally have been laughing at myself left and right because I've been talking about doing this forever, but I didn't know how to put it out there. I didn't know how to make it part of the world's reality. And my second son is the reason why I need to do this change. And it's funny because I don't even like to say this out loud, but I didn't want him per se. The things with his dad and I that was my lowest time of my life. And so I really did not want to be having a baby and bringing him into that and whatever. So, and he's my heart child. So, and he's also my little scientist and the outside the box and the can't go sit through regular school. He would be tortured in regular school. They would want to medicate him. That's, his ADHD kind of and big. And it doesn't bother me because he gets to learn freely. But regular school's bad. So here I get this gift and this little human that I really wasn't ready for. But he's not forcing, but I feel like I have to create school to fit his needs. And then I started being awake to the fact that this is so many of my students that hate school. I have students in my coworkers all just think these guys are really low level and blah, blah, blah learning and all have these learning disabilities. And that is not the case. I have kids running $1 million businesses. They're 17 years old. They don't see the value of what we're teaching them in regular school to their lives. And so ultimately I want to make actual physical schools that are real project-based learning. We talk about project-based learning, but it's not very successful, where kids do bring their ideas and then we establish connections with businesses to allow them to start their own business doing whatever their idea is. So they're going to start digging into their ideas. They're going to start learning how to market and figuring all that stuff out. Because honestly, they're creating this stuff. These kids are creating, this just making a business like what you've done on your end didn't exist 10 years ago. And these kids are creating this stuff. And they're doing it way faster than we are because we're still stuck in old mold. And so that's ultimately what I wanted to do to meet the needs of my little two. And then I was like, holy crap, and then I started telling kids about my students about this. They're like, oh, can you hurry up? Because I want to go there. I've got 2 years left. And I was like, oh, course there are other kids who want this, duh, you know. And it's crazy that all the light bulbs are really going on in my head, you know.
Yeah.
So it's good timing
It
because I'm
is.
trying to figure it out online first, and then I'll get my actual like in-person schools if that comes to that. So pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
Good stuff, girl. Good stuff. Well, I think that I think this message is the right timing for a lot of parents that are home right now, and really grateful that you came on and shared your light. And we'll definitely, obviously, put all the links on how they can connect with you under this live, and then post it on YouTube and share with the world. Right? That's what we're here to do. We're here to bring light. So I
And
appreciate you.
yeah, when you get out of your own way and you realize that people are actually looking for what you have to say, it's pretty cool because you do feel like you are helping others, which is a goal too. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Well,
thanks for
thanks, Cathy. I appreciate you coming on, girl. And thank you guys for joining us. And we'll obviously be back again next Monday, but you can catch the recording of this, or you can catch the YouTube link when it comes out later. You guys have a great rest of your Monday. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.